Hey there, Wendy here with Jazzydoodledesigns, and today I have a video on this capybara, where is it? This page, right? And I color along, I talk while I color, and I use Lyra, what are they called? Water-soluble crayons. Okay, and that's really the only thing I use besides a white acrylic marker and a little bit of black for the eyes. Now, one thing I will say, I struggle a little bit with this paper and the Lyras and using water versus alcohol marker to activate it, but I show you everything. So I take that back. I actually show all of the problem, right? So that's what I meant. There is a little segment in the middle where I've colored a couple of pumpkins with you, and then one of my files got corrupted, and so I lost some of the footage for coloring all the rest of the pumpkins. But really, they're colored with the same colors the same way, just in varying degrees of, various degrees of how much of each orange each of them got. So that being said, I try and keep it real for you, because I think too often creators only show you like the end, or they only show you when things go well. And I'm going to show you when things don't go well, as well as when they do go well. So that's what you can expect in today's video. So let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to start up here with the sky. I'm going to take my darkest blue, and I want the darkest blue up here in the top part of the sky. Now, because I'm not as familiar with Lyra or working on kind of this Create Space, Amazon type of paper, I am going to test just a little piece up here and just get a feel for how well these work. I need a paper towel. I always recommend this unless you're really familiar, because this is going to give me an idea of, do I need more medium down? Is this enough? I'm going to look at whether or not that went through. That did quite a bit. So, a couple things we can try. Let's try using a little bit more medium here. So by putting more down, when I activate it, it's not going to go through the paper as much. Can you see that it didn't go through as much? So that's one of the things I'm looking for. Now, do you need to let it dry before you shut your book? Yes. So keep that in mind. It's all a process. That's why I like one-sided books, because, it gives grace to people like me. All right, so I'm going to go in, and knowing what I know now, I'm going to be a little more liberal with my coloring here. Now, if you wanted a little darker up here, you could always add some gray. I don't think that's really necessary, because to me, I'm not looking for a gloomy day. I'm looking for like a sunny fall day. So that's my thoughts. these aren't quite as like, I wouldn't say that they're harder, but they're just not quite as creamy as Neocolor 2s. But when I used these the last time, I enjoyed them. I don't find them hard to use at all. Just, it's different when you're used to like a particular brand of pencil, right? So like if you're a Prisma user and then you go to Polychromos, sometimes it takes a little of adjustment, right? Okay. Now, generally speaking, I'm probably going to go about a third, and then I'm going to come like down here on the bottom, I'm going to do my lighter color. So you can do this any way, meaning you can work from top to bottom, left to right. You can activate as you go. You can do it all at once. I tend to activate all at once after I've tested. And like I said, if I was using Neocolor 2s in Hannah Carlson, I wouldn't necessarily test because I have a pretty good understanding of what it's going to do. But as a newer medium, I always recommend that. Because there's no harm in that, right? And I'm going to come in with my medium color here. To me, this branch is a good spot to, like at least on this side, for my division. As I move to the right, I'm going to want to bring in some of that dark to blend it a little. Now you can always do more than one coat as well. So like that's pretty light to me. So once that's dry, I will add some more. Like another layer. Does that make sense? But it's really nice that you don't see how I have like some missing spots there. That's okay. You don't have to feel like you got to get every little single bit. Now here, I think I'm going to bring down some more of this dark. And then as I go down with my dark, I'm going to lighten it. See how I'm not putting quite as much? So just a light layer of the dark. Kind of like I did there. I was just barely covering it, right? Whereas over here, I'm going in a lot heavier. And then I'm going to do a lighter layer here of this color. Just to blend it out a little bit. So as I get into these open spaces, you'll be able to see that I am coming in much lighter now with this dark. Because I'm going to do another layer of the medium. Directionality doesn't really matter, though I wouldn't get crazy especially if you're pushing down. Try and keep your directionality a little more consistent. But I'm going to put another layer here of this lighter. I really enjoy working with stuff like this because, as you guys joke with me, I am a little impatient, so I do like working quicker this way. Even if it takes the same amount of time, somehow this feels quicker to me. Doing 2 layers feels quicker than when I'm doing something like this, right? Where I just have to move slow. It's kind of a psychological thing, right? Now I'm back with my lightest. I'll bring this color in. Now, I'm going to do a lot of blending, or most likely will do some blending with my palette. So I am not overly concerned about, is this too dark or too light at this point? Or do I have too much light and not enough dark, or vice versa? Because I know I can add another layer. The key to adding the layers is you have to wait until it's completely dry. Not just kind of dry to the touch. You don't want it to feel cool to the touch. Oh, don't go over your leaf, Wendy. I'll make that leaf brown. Okay. So we're dry up here now, so I can go in and do another coat. And I am going to be a little more I hesitate to use the word aggressive because I'm not pushing down hard, but I'm not letting it just glide over the paper. I'm adding a little bit of pressure, okay? All right, now when I activate this, when I'm working with 3 different colors, I'm going to start with my lightest color, and I am going to work my way up. Now, one thing I will note with these, I don't know if it's this particular paper or just how these work in general, I feel like they lighten up and move quite a bit. Do you see how I can actually pick that up? I'm not necessarily wanting that. So it's almost like I feel like I'm applying it to like a wax surface. So we're definitely going to need another coat here. So since I know that that's happening, I just want to make sure that this is kind of smoother. Like I'm not leaving like big blobs of color. I don't know why this is acting like this. Not really a fan, to be honest. Maybe I just didn't have quite enough down on the paper, on the lower one. Maybe. I feel like it's doing a little better up here. I just feel like it lifts so easy on this paper. But we're definitely going to have bleed through. And just tell, this paper is not great for water mediums. So, I will do more pages probably with alcohol marker going forward. But I'm always up for a good challenge too. And sometimes making these little, almost like swirling motions can be good, as opposed to like a long sweep like this. Let's go back over this. It definitely stays on better on the second layer up here. So maybe this is just a medium that will take 2 layers. But it's doing better in the, see how oh, be careful that you don't put color on your hand and then move it around. Make sure, see how I have a lot of water right there? Try and get that off. I don't want that. Not only will it penetrate your paper, but just dilutes everything. So you want that nice balance of enough water to dissolve it, not enough to destroy everything. Now when you have 2 colors that are meeting, it's usually better to go in with your lighter color and push it into the darker one, because depending on your colors, sometimes that darker one can really overtake your lighter color. I'm just trying to smooth that out a little bit. Now, you're going to see, I bet you we really, well, not as much as I would have thought. But, okay. Okay. Next up, I want to use our turquoise, that peacock blue. Let's go in. Now once again, I'm using like a medium pressure, trying to give it good coverage, but I'm not bearing down because I don't want to leave marks, and I want it to be as smooth as possible. I want to try an alcohol marker. I really like how that worked. Now these are just, so let me show you, you just want to make sure to get all that off, because your next color you might be using something lighter, right? But this is some markers I got on Amazon. I'll try and leave a link in the description box below, but they're just generic ones. I also have these. They say broad and fine, and I know I've shown them on my channel before, but what I've done is I've marked on the ends, like this one I use for red, this one I use for yellow, blue, and then that way what I can do is I don't have to be as careful with this process. Okay, and these are like, I think they're like 3 for $6.99 or something like that. So they're like $2 a marker, but they last forever, and you just fill them with rubbing alcohol. Okay, now not everyone likes this technique because it can lighten your colors. I don't see where it's lightened these up at all. I'm going to do this little guys in the same color. I do like that you get more consistent results, right? See how that's uneven? This is pretty even. Now what I'm going to do the little pocket there is after I'm done activating all of this, right? I'm going to go in and color his little pocket. So his pocket will be a little lighter. Okay? All right. Our page is still wet, so let's go ahead and let's go in with, I'm going to start with our lightest green, which is this apple green. And I'm just going to do a base layer of green, of the lightest green, because then I'm going to go back in and add some detail with pencil most likely. But we'll see. We'll see how it turns out. Maybe we won't even put any pencil on it. Now, instead of doing it all light at this point, you could put in some patches of darker. Like I could come in with like that sap green, yeah, and add some in here just for a little variation, right? Maybe in the darker regions. Okay. Now when you use the alcohol marker, it's not going to blend as much as if you do it with water. If I activate all this with water, I'm going to get kind of a nice blendy. But if I activate it with, where's my green? we're going to get some blending. And see, I can kind of blend that by bringing it up into the lighter area. But it's not going to look quite as watercolory with this method. It's going to look more like alcohol marker. I actually prefer the look of watercolor most of the time, or alcohol, for these kind of pages. There are other pages I prefer the watercolor look. I haven't decided what to do with the scarf, so I'm not going to bring that green completely up. Now, because that's my designated green, I don't have to clean it off as much. But you can see, we didn't, no you can't, because I don't even have it in screen. No marks, right? So that is kind of nice. A little bit of green right here. And then down here, I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do it mostly in this sap green. I'm not too worried about going over the stones because I'll add those maybe with an acrylic marker. Now up here, because it's the top of this, we'll add a little bit in here. This is under our pumpkin, so we're going to go with the darker. But just for a little variation, right? Okay. Oh, I'm so sorry. So sorry. Luckily, this is what you missed. You missed scribbling, okay? But I apologize. I'll try and pay attention. Pay attention, Wendy. All right. I'm using the chisel in because it's a bigger area. Not a lot of detail work happening here. I can make my chisel get into the smaller corners. You can use if your pen that you're using has a brush, that's fine. You can use a colorless blender from an alcohol marker set. Those work too. Each one blends slightly different. But if water bugs you because you don't like the crinkly pages, this is a really good way to do it. But it's a little bit of a different effect, so it's all in what you want. You lose a little bit of the water-soluble look. Okay? Now, the nice thing about working with like the alcohol marker is it dries very quickly. So I don't have to wait. Like, I'm still waiting for the sky. But I can go ahead and rework this area, right? Now, if I want a little bit of a darker, let's see. A little darker green here. Don't overfill your marker either with alcohol, because if you do, it will leak on you a little bit. We don't need any alcohol abuse. Okay. So I can, did I activate this? I love how fast this is going. It appeals to me. Do you just feel like you're getting stuff done? Making headway? So this is just that peacock blue I used on his little outfit there, his jumper. Now you do want to be careful because it's very hard to erase this, okay? And then I think on this guy, I'm just going to do the dark in the smaller area. Okay. And then before I even activate, I'm going to go ahead and do these in the lighter. I may go back and add in some stripes, right? Oh, you know what would have been cute? What if I would have done a stripe with the yellow? And then added the yellow in his boots. That would have looked cute. But in for a penny, in for a pound here. All right, get my blender here. Is this the one I was using? I think it was. This is much harder to do with water in these smaller areas. So let's say you overall like using the water method, right? But then you've got some small flowers or something like that. This is a nice way to be able to do it. And keep it in the lines, right? Okay, now on this one I think I'm going to add a medium tone. If I have to, I can pick up a little. I could also put it on a palette and pick it up. It's a very subtle difference, so I'm not terribly worried. I brushed off most of it, and then I saw where I had missed a couple of small areas that were just white. So I just got a lot of that dark off, right? Now some colors like these, because they're color families, I can be a little more forgiving with not cleaning off my brush. But what if I had been doing yellow and I don't clean off my brush and I get the green in it, right? It is going to change things. So you want to be aware of that. Okay, I'm going to wait on his hat. All right, let's get started on our pumpkins. So I know I want this big pumpkin to be mainly this kind of an orangier color. I'll leave a little bit at the bottom. A little bit here in the middle. I'm going to have like the light coming in kind of like this. Now, I don't get super wrapped up in that because I haven't been formally trained and I mess it up all the time. But I do try not to have light hitting here and on the back side because I think that can make your eye might not understand why it doesn't look right, but it won't look right. Now, should that stop you from coloring? No. No, don't let it stop you. All right, which one's this? Orange yellow. So I'm going to put some of that here in the middle. Maybe just a little bit here, maybe a little up in here. Okay. And then the Venetian red. A little bit down here at the bottom, like where the pumpkins meet, where it'd be a little more shaded, right? Maybe along this back edge. Okay. Just a little bit of orange, because I don't want it yellow in the middle. I just want it to look a little more lighter, not light. Does that make sense? So kind of flicking up. Okay. Now, when I start this, let's find my blender here. This one will work. Okay. So, make sure we're clean. And then I'm going to start here kind of in the middle. And I'm going up and down. As I get down here to the bottom, I'm going to kind of flick that color up a little. It is not going to move like it would with water. If you were doing this with water, you would have to be a lot more careful, because it would move a lot more. So here I'm going with the lighter color, moving into the darker. But then that darker, I'm making kind of the up and down motions, right? We can always adjust with our pencils. We can adjust with fine liner, acrylic marker, right? But the purpose of this is doing our base layer. We can do another layer of this exact same medium. Or we can add to it. Okay, but see how that added a little variation? I like that. Here there's a few little spots that like have little white dots where the color didn't go over. And I'm just making sure everything has color, okay? And I don't have any like harsh lines that I can't live with. Okay, and then we just repeat the process, varying up our colors. So now I'm going to start with the canary yellow. And I'm going to do the majority of this pumpkin in this color. Okay, now I'm going to go in with that orange that I used before. So instead of orange with the lighter in the middle, now I'm doing the same thing, only I'm starting off light and adding in our darker colors so that the overall pumpkin is lighter. Now you can take your darker up in the shadowy recesses here. Okay, we can flick a little color up so it's a little more varied. I am going to pick a yellow. Ochre. Going to add that a little bit there. And a little bit of this burnt ochre into the orange, just to make it a little less vibrant. We're still going to have the undertone of that first color. But this is going to knock it back just a little bit. Make it not quite so bright. And then a little bit of this darker, the Venetian red. Just a little. Right? Just at the bottom. A little on the edges here. A little bit back here. Kind of where it'd be shaded, right? Alright. Now let's get got our marker. As a good habit, try to always kind of start with your lighter colors, move into your darker. Not as important with the alcohol, but if I take this darker, see, I am drawing that down into this pumpkin, or up as I do the strokes, right? But if I start here in the middle, I'm drawing that lighter down into the darker. So it's all in what you want. If you don't want to lose the dark, you can start with the dark and pull it up. And vice versa. If you feel like your marker got too much on it, just give it a little wipe. Like maybe you went and picked some up down here at the bottom and you feel like, oh, that's too much dark. Wipe it off. You guys hear the geese? The geese are really starting to fly. can always tell it's fall. Now, do you see how we essentially use the same colors, but we got two different pumpkins? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and fix our sky. So I grabbed our darkest, the Prussian blue. Even though this one isn't too bad, I'm going to go ahead, add a little bit more up here in that corner. And then because it is so dark, I'm bringing it down a little. See how dark it is compared to this? I want a little bit more blend here. I felt like that was kind of too stark a contrast. So just adding a little bit of that dark there. Nice and easy. Because we do want dark up here. I just don't want it to be like dark light. We want dark medium light, right? At least on this page. Am I on camera? You guys need to yell louder when I'm not. I wish. It'd be nice because sometimes I just get so focused on what I'm doing that I totally like I'm talking to you, but in my mind you're watching what I'm doing when really you're at home tearing your hair out, cursing me like a pirate. I heard you using those words. Should be ashamed. You can just tell a big difference in this water. Look how it crinkled our page. We got a lot more variation. Now you can flatten the pages. That personally is not something that I fret about much. You can iron them. I just use water a lot of times. But you have to be careful if you're using water-soluble mediums. Okay, now we're into True Blue here, our medium color. I will say this True Blue is a much smoother. The Prussian has, it's almost, you can almost feel it drag on the paper a little bit more. This has a more glidey feel. Now glidey, that's a proper term. Don't be fooled just because it isn't in the dictionary that it's not a proper term. Don't you all be coming at me with facts, okay? Just like when I make fun of you people that use the word color with a U. Who cares that we're in the minority of countries that don't use a U? Like, don't bring me facts. Oh, okay. Last up is our light blue. This one, even more than the other one, this one feels waxier. It's really interesting to me how different they feel. So maybe it's just that Prussian has a lot more pigment, so you feel the difference. I've just never really noticed that, like with Neocolor 2s. And don't get me wrong, I did a review on these crayons, and I do like them. I don't like that there really isn't any open stock, or if I can't remember, there might be a few open stock for these, but they're not regular open stock like Neocolor 2s where you can order any color at any time. So this isn't me dissing on these at all, because you can see, you might not agree, but I think I'm getting, I think it's coming out, I think this page is coming out okay. I'm just noting differences. That's all. Alright, so let's try and blend those Let's get my blue one. Here it is. And let's try and activate it. Yeah. See, I'm getting it much more like the rest of the page now. So even though I did the water the first time, look at what a big change this makes to use the alcohol now. But even with the alcohol, do you see the color pick up and like actually move? Sorry, I bumped my mouse. Should I work from left to right because I'm right-handed? Yeah. Do I? Well, most of the time I do. Do I get excited and jump all over? Yep. Yes. Yes, I do. Am I going over all of my leaves? Yes. I really prefer this look. But there are pages where I do like the watercolory look better. And there are coloring books with better paper that it works better on as well. I just find it interesting how much they actually lift, because that is definitely not my goal. Ellie is up on my lap. No, she's not on my lap. She's got her legs on my legs, telling me that it's time for her bun run. Which, if you're new to my channel, that means she gets to go out in our cul-de-sac and scout for bunnies. And if she sees one, she can chase it off. She doesn't really care about catching them. I think she just wants to be a bully. Be like, get out of my yard! And it doesn't seem to deter them. They run. They go back to their little den. And then we go in, and 5 minutes later, they're back out. So there's no harming being done. I think they consider it part of the chase. Because I honestly feel like if it was in some way detrimental to them, they would move on. There's lots of other houses and other areas that they could go. Or they could not decide to perch right in my yard, but in maybe a neighbor's yard. Am I justifying bullying? In this case, I am. If this was children, absolutely not. Just to be clear, I am not a bully. But I do shamelessly spoil my dog. So, alright, this is where I'm going to leave it for today, and we'll pick back up tomorrow. Okay, let's get the mouse out of the way. I'm going to go in and try to do this guy one more time. This is where, with Neocolors and better paper, I would be using my palette. But I really don't want to add any water to this page at all. So I'm going to see if I can do some blending here. Just by adding another layer, right? So this is the lightest color. Even just smoothing it out like this has made a big difference. Now we'll see what happens when it activates, because that's where I'm struggling. it just lifts. Let me know in the comments if you use these gel crayons, and if you do you ever have this trouble? Is it a me thing? Is it a Lyra thing? Is it the paper? Like, what is your thoughts on this? I'm going to have to do more testing before I can say, because I've only used alcohol marker in this book, which is probably what I'll stick to. I don't know. I like doing different things. And you know what? I'm always up for a challenge. So, this has been a little bit more of a challenge. I'm into the medium color here. Blending into this dark. Down into the light a little bit. Alright, let's add a little bit of the dark up here. Smooth this out a little. Now it could be that part of my trouble is that I started with water and then I added the alcohol. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Make sure I had the medium. See this really dark to medium there. I want to smooth that out a little bit. Alright, let's just see if we can fix this. I feel like that light isn't going over that very well. So I'm going to bring down this medium. Do you see how the medium went over that? Alright. Let's get my blue. Okay, got my blue here. Look at how that it just lifts it right off. I might have to just leave it like this, like unactivated in this area. I don't know if we would get a lot of transfer. I may have to spray it. This episode's going to be Watch Wendy Struggle. Because I just don't like this. Okay, I can live with that amount of texture, I guess. I'm gonna fix that just a little bit. feel like maybe when I blended out, it kind of muddied it a little bit. Got a little bit of that orange and the blue. And just muddied my colors just a little, which I hope that if you're watching, you can see that even people that have channels struggle, right? Because we're always trying to take our mediums to a new level. And whenever you do something out of your comfort zone, sometimes you're going to have some failures. Now, is this a failure? Yeah, I don't think so. I like how this page is turning out in general. Is it going as easy as I would have liked? No. Nope, it's not. I always kind of like a little bit of a vignette look. It's a little darker and then gets a little lighter. So to do that here, I'm going to bring in that green. The sap green. Yeah, that looks a little better there. You know what I need to try and do when I do these pages? I need to tape off the bottom, like with tape or washi tape, so that we can have that nice crisp edge, because this looks kind of crappy where I go out of the lines, right? Now this is the time when go around your page, make sure everything's activated, make sure everything's colored. One thing I am going to do is this pumpkin I don't feel like has enough orange. So I'm going to go in with that yellow orange in part. And then also just my regular orange. Go over this red. Just blend it a little bit more. It just looks a little dull and faded to me. Same with here. Even pulling in a little bit more of that red. but I want it more, I want more orange in that red. Even though I want it darker, I still, to me, it looks a little too red. Does that make sense? So everywhere that I have just red, going over it with that darker orange. This is the orange. Okay guys, I've done 2 coats. I can live with this and call this page almost done. I am going to take a black Sharpie pen. Now this is not a Sharpie marker which will go through your page. This is a Sharpie pen. And I am going to go over his eye. And his mouth. His nostrils. I think his eyebrows too. Sometimes you'll get a little wax buildup. Just go off on the side and scribble. That should get rid of it. His ears. Make sure to let it dry. Be careful you don't smear. It will take a little bit longer than normal because it's on a waxy surface. Now, it's up to you if you want to do the whiskers, okay? You got to be careful, and I'm talking to myself, because they can look very contrived very easily. So I'm trying to make flicking strokes. Okay. All right, so anywhere else that you think you might need, so like maybe some dots down here. On our rocks, right? A little bit of shadowing maybe on the bottom. The more wax you have, the harder it's going to be for the pen to write. So be patient, scribble it off, it'll come back on, okay? Do it frequently though, and definitely don't do it when it's super wet, okay? Now it's up to you. You could definitely come in and do the little swirlies. We can use a white highlighter. So let me grab mine. I have really been liking this Fly C one. This is an optional choice. But I definitely, no matter what, want to use it for the eyeballs. Okay. Because we definitely want white eyeballs. I think I want white little buttons there. I picked up a little black marker on that, but I think I'm gonna make our boots polka dotted, because why not? Should I have done the left boot first? Absolutely. Do I ever think of these things in a timely manner? No, I always think of them after I've done the other one. I think, wow, that would have been a good idea. All right, let's give him matching boots. That's kind of fun. Felt like some of those kind of faded a little bit. Give them a little second coat. Okay, the final thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a few white dots to the pumpkins. Just randomly, kind of where they have the little black dots, but not every black dot. Just for visual interest, right? And because it's a cute page, I'm not worried about why would there be white dots on the pumpkin. As I jokingly say, I'm the boss of my coloring book. If your white starts to not cover, tap off like this over here on the side. Usually you just got a little, maybe that Lyra wax in your marker. Okay? No rhyme and reason for this. I just think it adds a little visual interest to the page. Maybe you don't like that. That's cool. You do you, boo. But it is something that you can do. I did do one more coat here on the white, but I am going to call this page done. I think it turned out cute. This is a coloring book, like I said. It's not like you don't want to do a good job. You know what? I'm going to just touch this up a little bit. It's not like you are saying, oh, I'm not going to do a good job. Right? That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is not every page has to be a masterpiece. I just want a little more blend. Okay. It was bugging me. So that's it for now. Happy fall, happy coloring, and we'll catch you on the next one. Okay, I said I was done. I lied. I just am not loving this, so I thought I'd bring in some of this yellow. What's the worst that could happen? I don't like it, and I take the acrylic marker and I go back over it with white. Okay? And then what did we use? Was the ochre, right? Yeah. So let's bring in a little bit of that darker yellow on the edges here. Just so it looks a little more like the boots, right? Because that white really brightened it up a little bit. Don't be afraid to try things. We can always figure out how to fix them, right? I like that. I do like that. I feel like it kind of ties in the yellow a little bit. This guy doesn't have a hat, so there's that. Do we want to add just a touch of yellow at the base here? Yeah, kind of like that too. Okay. All right. I'm really done now. Thank you for watching another video from Jazzydoodledesigns. If you'd like even more Jazzydoodle and a little more snark, please check out the membership below. If you're looking for a community where you can share your work and chat with other fellow colorists in a safe and welcoming environment, hit the subscribe button to Jazzydoodledesigns and then look for Jazzydoodledesigns Coloring Community on Facebook. And there you can join a group of fellow colorists to talk all things coloring and share cute pet pictures. I hope to see you there, and until next time, happy coloring.